Kia ora te whānau. Welcome to Grace at Your Place. So great that you can join us today. In a moment, we're going to hear a great message from one of our team, but before that, we're going to go into a time of worship. Let me pray. Father God, we just thank you so much. You're such a great Father to us, and we can just worship you today. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's worship.
Shame.
Good morning. Awesome. My name's Timmy, for those that don't know me. I'm normally out at West Campus in the west of Christchurch at Wigram, but me and Dave did a swap today, which is fun. Over at West, we're actually having a multicultural day, which means people dress up in different attire or things that they relate to from their cultural background. So Dave this morning might be wearing a kilt. How exciting. And if Lizzie's there, maybe a sari, because she was spending a lot of time in India. So how exciting for them. So we are week 3 of Missions Month. And I was just thinking a few days ago about what a blessing it is to be able to take 1 month of the year in our church calendar just to remember the mission that God has called us to. I was thinking that because I don't know about you, but I'm an incredibly forgetful person. I forget things. And all the way through the Bible, we see God reminding people of things that they have forgotten. And this can be really silly things that I can forget. Like, for instance, the other day, I was looking for my sunglasses, and I don't know about you, but I leave my sunglasses everywhere. Leave them at people's houses. People message me, oh, you've left your coat behind. And so I was looking for my sunglasses for about 10 minutes, and my daughter said, Daddy, they're on your head. And then the other day, my mother-in-law, who is amazing, she's got amazing memory, but she couldn't find a car keys anywhere, so we're looking for them. And I found them in the fridge. And she said to me, oh, I left them there so I wouldn't forget. and we all can be very, very forgetful. I mean, my wife, Sarah, she actually forgot to go to work without her shoes on. And she works in the hospital. So she had to drive all the way home to get a pair of shoes. And we are forgetful people. We forget things. In some ways, those are the more kind of trivial things, but also there's serious things that we forget. And there's things like forgetting the poor. The poor, you know, the Bible talks about not to forget the poor, but to remember them. And I used to live in the third poorest country in the world called Mozambique, and I'm sure you've heard a few stories from that a few weeks ago. And these people are so poor, you know, they don't have power, running water, sometimes access just to education, healthcare. And I'm amazed how quick I can come back here and just forget about them. And start to live in this kind of modern first world country and just be distracted by, you know, just wonderful things that we all want, things that make us comfortable. But of course, we're on a mission not to forget the poor. We want to serve them and help them. And Missions Month is another reminder that there's a whole world out there, majority world, that don't have running water and access to the things that we do. You know, I so thank God that we partner with people that haven't forgotten, that are actually planted in these places that we can't get to. And this morning you're going to hear from a couple, Pastor Dearsouem and his wife, and also Paul Donaldson, who's part of bringing water to some of these rural kind of unreached places. And we're going to interview them and hear how they're bringing the good news to others. Also, we can forget to share the good news. I mean, someone came to us and shared the good news of Jesus. And that's why we're here today. That's why our families are transformed. And so we're going to hear about the good news of Jesus and how it's setting people free from oppression, from sin. And just like you and I, they're able to come into the presence of God and have this wonderful friendship with Jesus. But before I welcome them up this morning, I'm just going to play a 4-minute video about Dearsouem and what he does as a bit of a backdrop to understand his story.
I accept Christ on 1988. I learned Jesus Christ and follow Jesus Christ, and I became the leader, church leader. You know, when the fighting going on, I feel like a hopeless in my future, and I do not want to come back and fighting again. So my plan, I would like to resettle in the third country, New Zealand or Australia or Canada, but I know that God has another plan for me because I want to go out to the third country, but God said that, hey, in Cambodia, we have a lot of people do not hear the good news yet. So on 1992, I register my name and my family and go back to Cambodia. I feel like I'm alone when I come to my village. And then I see like it is kind of small seed that have been planted. And I share the good news to my brother, to my family, to my neighbor in my village. My brother, he opened his heart to hear the good news and he want to baptize. He start to have church up there and he start to planting more church. So a small seed had been planted and now it more multiply and multiply. Rural area, we face a lot of problem. No electricity, the water is also very poor, also no good road coming here. You're giving food to the children, but they do not know what kind of food that have nutrition. We thank God that when Rob to come to Batabong, and then we meet together, we have breakfast together, and then he introduced his project called Earth Care. So Jenny is explanation about what kind of food that we supposed to give to the children. The people, they understand about how to keep the trees alive and how we can prevent erosion in the field. The river that cannot passing through because many people promise to do it, but they never do. But I thank God that we have friends, that church, that would like to be a participation in helping this one out. With the concrete, like 50 meter long and 4 meter wide. We also insert the pipeline into that one and then we get the water strong also to get to the church and primary school in that area. And military, police, village leader, they join together to celebrate. And then they say that, oh, they see Jesus Christ through what we are doing. I'm the survivor from the killing field. And I know the truth that Jesus Christ is saving my life. So I always ask question to myself, what can I do, God, to respond to your saving to my life? So I love to help the people. I love to share the good news of Jesus Christ that saved my life and to let the people know that they need the Savior from Jesus Christ also. We love to be, continue the ministry to grow and help the people who are in need. And we see that the people will know Christ through what we are doing for the Lord.
Yeah, let's welcome Pastor Dearsouem and Chen. Come forward. You know, I was also thinking last week, it's very rare that we actually get to meet pastors from overseas. It took around 2 months through immigration with all the paperwork just to get them here. So it's a real honor to have you, Pastor Dearsouem.
Thank you. That's a great blessing that we have one day ahead that before we are flying here of the visa. So thank you.
Just in time.
Yes,
one day before the flight. Amazing, hey? So it didn't say it in the video, but you guys were child soldiers. You during the time of the Khmer Rouge, you were taken away from your family and put in this just awful war. And so that's where you met your wife. But tell us a bit about that. How did you meet Chen?
Yeah. You know, during the killing field of Khmer Rouge at that time when we fell, into the another regime that controlled by the Khmer Rouge, we are not allowed, at that time, they are not allowed the children to stay with parents. So that's way that I left from my parents and then to go to work in another place far away from my parents. And at this point that I feel I facing a lot of problem happening. One thing that I'm young boy, but working hard, no food, no medication when they get sick. So this part of the story when we are in the separate from the father. But after that, we see a lot of fighting also going on. During the fighting, nobody escaped from the soldier. So I'm a part in a younger soldier in the fighting. So my wife, she is also young girl, but I'm in the front line of the fighter, and she is the helper that living in the village. So thousand or hundred of young girl that we call the helper of bringing food, ammunition to help the fighter. That's what I met her during, I see her at that time. At that time, we know just under the tree, young girl, no transportation by car, motorbike, just by human people. That's what we are facing at that time. So that's first time that we met together when we were in the fighting area.
Wow. So Chen used to bring you bullets for your gun,
yes,
basically.
she's helping me that.
Probably not many love stories that we hear. So obviously it was a very awful time for you. Just filling in the gaps in a bit, you got taken away from your parents and you never saw your mum again, did you?
Yeah, because the policy of the Khmer rules, and also at that time we are under the war. We are not far away from each other, maybe 3-hour drive, but because of the war, I cannot see my mom, and my mom cannot come to visit me, and we lost in touch each other almost 20 years. So during these 20 years that I could not see her, but she passed away. That's my mom that happening on that. Yeah.
And I've been over to visit Dearsouem a few times, and he just said, "Oh, that's where my mother's buried in one of the killing fields," and just such awful, evil stuff that happened within your community. And so, tell us what it was like being part of the Khmer Rouge Army and how you escaped.
Fighting, still going on because we have, a lot of war going on. I don't know, the regime that falling into the war, it facing a lot of fighting going on. So I'm still the military on the young boy at that time, but in one day that the attack, it's close all the border. I mean, my soldiers are very weak, not enough food, and then we lose. So all the soldiers are fleeing to Thailand. So at this point, they are announcing some people would like to go to the refugee camp. They can go and through the United Nations. But my great uncle, I'm the commander, I'm the bodyguard of my commander, and then he is the great uncle to my wife. So before he continue his fighting, he would he get to see me to get married together.
Yeah.
So at this point that everybody get married, and I feel like I get married. You know how much I spent for marriage? $1 for my wedding.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, $1 for my wedding, and we get 80 couple a day for the wedding.
Wow.
Because some of them going to fight, continue to fight, but some of them they have a choice to go to we call refugee camp.
Yeah.
I feel like when I during the fighter, it feel like enough for me. Starvation and no trend of the military, but I'm doing a lot of fighting. Feel like I do not want to continue more with the fighting.
Yeah.
So I decide to go to the refugee camp. That I feel like I can continue my education more, because during the fighting or civil war, all the education in Cambodia closed. All schools are closed, so no opportunity to continue education. So that is a part that of the war.
So you're in the refugee camp.
Yeah.
You start working as a medical assistant in the hospital, and you ended up meeting this lady called Ruth, who was one of the nurses. I think we have a picture of her up here. And just tell us about this lady.
At the refugee camp, we have around 400,000 people living in the compound there.
400,000 people.
Yeah, and we have medical center there that have been trained the people, local people there. And at the same time, me training as the nurse, and after that, and my wife training as the midwife, and we work in the same hospital together.
Wow.
At that time, we see there are missionary, those who are Christian and share the good news to me, but not really open. When they see me, feel like would like to accept the training or want to hear the good news, they give me some leaflet to me. And I want to know more what Jesus Christ meaning to me.
Yeah.
So I would like to continue to learn more because I want to know more what is Jesus Christ meaning to me. So later on 1998, we finally accept Christ.
Wow.
Through the nurse, that is a Canadian nurse.
Canadian nurse, yeah.
Yeah, she's the trainer of the medical and also working in the hospital. That's where I accept Christ on 19. Yeah.
So Ruth wasn't allowed to actually share the gospel, but she did anyway, and she did it in secret with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few of you like that in your workplace.
Living in the we call the camp that under the control of the Khmer rules, it's still strict. Still very strict about religious.
Strict, yeah.
So Ruth's always looking way how they can share the good news to me. So this way that I'm very careful also. I not open. In my family, we start sometime like a half an hour for lunch breaks, meet together, and she teach me step by step. We call living life.
Wow.
That's what she teaching me.
That was the teaching.
Yeah.
So you ended up being registered as a pastor, and like we heard in the story, you started going back to your home village. And you say in the video that you had a choice. You could have gone to Canada, to New Zealand, to Australia, but God put on your heart to go back to your people and share the good news that you'd heard. I mean, that must have been incredibly difficult for you.
I know that in Cambodia, since we have a lot of war going on and on, we feel like do not know what is God leading us. Because going back to Cambodia, facing a lot of fighting, war going on, and we do not want to face again as a young soldier like I was before. And in the refugee camp, we have seen some country that open door for us immigration doing that, go to New Zealand, Canada, or Australia, or America. I feel like I would like to come here. But one day we see that negotiations start in Cambodia, government and the United Nations going on, and then they close all the refugee camp not to go out to other third country. So this way I feel like God is sending us to Cambodia. That's what I feel like. I learned to accept what is God planning for my life.
Yeah.
I know that I would like to go third country, but I feel when we looking at the in our country, it 95% are Buddhism and Christianity maybe 1% in Cambodia. So it's really hard about your Christian in Cambodia. So when I accept Christ and also involved in leadership in the church also, so I would like to accept his plan and then go back to Cambodia. That's my prayer, my plan. And then we start a new church in my home village. When I first going back to Cambodia, I do not know really sure about this one, but God is allow me to share the good news with my brother first, my family, what I get the leaflet, Bible from the camp, and cassette player from the camp, I share with them. They feel like do not know much about it, but I continue, to pray to God, to open their heart. Open, we want to see like God wisdom working on them and with me to share the good news. So my brother accept Christ and he baptized and he planting more church. That's where I thank God that my first church that have been planned since I returned from refugee camp. I thank to God that small seed had been planted through me at the refugee camp and coming back to Cambodia, share the good news, and more seed it had been coming out from the fruit that have been planted.
Yeah.
So I thank God for the year.
That's amazing, isn't it? Gosh, so good. So I guess just to fill the gaps in again, how many years were you in the refugee camp?
On 1985 until 1982.
1992.
Yeah.
So how many years was that?
12 years or something like
12
that.
years, yeah.
Yeah.
1992.
Yeah, but before that, it's a lot of fighting going on that I'm facing on that. Yeah.
So you were there for a long time. So of course, you, over the years, you've done a lot of things that you've told me about in terms of preventing from slave labour, sex trafficking. You've promoted stuff within villages, warning people about people coming to steal children or vulnerable people.
Yeah.
And alongside that, you've done lots of different projects. So you've ended up partnering with Rob and Jenny through Earth Care. And we as a church have been supporting Earth Care for quite a few years now as one of our missions partners. How did you meet them?
We have mostly I'm doing most church that planting in the rural area, and we do kind of community development alongside what the church are doing or meeting. So maybe somebody from Vaivan that they refer my name to Rob. And then Rob has an appointment with me in one day that we would like to meet together and have breakfast together and share what Rob is doing and what I'm doing. So how can be a part together for the ministry. So I thank God that the church that I have never trained on Earth Care, but Rob and Jenny have been a part in helping the sick church that I have registered with the government. So we are organize the training through Rob, how to take care of the tree erosion and protection the land that not to get spoiling or something. And Jenny doing a lot of work on health education. Provide what is good care for the children with good food, because my Cambodian elder people sometimes they are poor in education, not really have a good on provide the food for the children. So this part they understand how they can help the children better for this situation. And I know that we have a lot of community involved in working at the rural area and church. So that's what facing.
Wonderful. And so we're going to welcome up Paul Donaldson now, who came over with Rob and Jenny a bit later on. So let's welcome up Paul. So Paul, you are here and part of City Campus, and actually we just really want to honour you, Paul, and thank you for actually bringing this couple over. You, along with an immigration lawyer, you really wrestled to get them here. So let's thank Paul for that, hey? Well done.
I came close to giving up. I remember Immigration New Zealand was just making it so difficult to bring these two out. And the thing is, from our heart, we know how honest, we just know how genuine these people are. But Som also understands that there's a lot of defection taking place and people are very keen to defect out of Cambodia. So consequently, the demands and information they're wanting from this couple was just extreme. And I remember saying to Timmy, or messaging him saying, look, Timmy, I'm not sure whether Som can handle any more demands. You saw him last. How is he bearing up? Because every third day we were, and the final straw, I was, as I say, this was the Tuesday they were flying out, and on the Thursday prior to, I was in Kerikeri with my brother-in-law who had just lost his wife suddenly. And next I get another email from the lawyer saying, look, I think we're just about there. One more thing. They now need to know all your education from secondary school. And I was a little bit annoyed And I said, do you really want to know what was happening while he was meant to be at secondary school? Yeah. You know, the audacity of them to ask this gentleman what he's doing. He was killing people. People were being killed. Children were being slaughtered. Children were being taken to the top of cliffs and forced down. They didn't want to waste bullets on children. And so you can imagine my heart. I have apologised to the lawyer. No, interestingly, I was at the end of myself. I tried for 3 or 4 weeks with Immigration New Zealand, not making any progress. And I then contacted a lawyer in Auckland, who I'd looked up, just Google, and talked to her, and she said yes, she could help. That very night, Timmy messages me from Cambodia, saying, look, one of our missions team, Brian, has got a friend who's a lawyer in Christchurch. I think she can help. So I ring her the next morning, and she says, Paul, yeah, I've been expecting you. What? So she said, yes, and you know my father, and he's told me I'm not allowed to charge you. So
amazing, eh?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So we journeyed with her, and she's a praying lady in between us. And now also like to honour, Soom's got 4 wonderful children, and we're going to see. We saw Soom there in the refugee camp with one little baby, Nancy. That Nancy was instrumental in helping answer all these questions. She works for the Australian Embassy in Phnom Penh. So, if God be for us, who can be against us?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Man. You can't tell Paul used to be a minister, can you, at all? Not at all. He's just amazing. Hey, Paul, tell us
I failed.
Tell us how you got involved with Rob and Jenny.
Yes, well, I've known Rob through irrigation and through the Waiora Trust that Rob founded. And so I journeyed with him just on irrigation and pumping matters at the Waiora Trust from about 1985. But we shared hearts and quickly forged a wonderful friendship. We were able to give him irrigation components to take, or pumping components. And Rob kept on sowing this little seed. And just mentioning the projects and the demands to get water into these villages, water into schools, is immense. And I could do a whole message on God's timing. And Rob, Timmy will quickly say we don't have
Please
time.
Please don't do that now.
Don't get me started. But I just want to encourage those who right now are feeling it's not the right time. I'm in a place where I just can't. I'm questioning God. And that's not a hard place to be in, is it? It's so easy to and I've been there. And what we don't see is this incredible map that God has planned for your life. And I can be a testimony to being in that very dark place. I was in ministry and burnt. And of course, it's a very hard place to come back from. And I had to crawl back into the pumping industry thinking, well, that wasn't a good option, was it, Paul? But God had far bigger plans, and there's a song that talks about my mistakes, he turns into miracles. My tears, he turns into joy. And so timing in terms of me having some resources and some time, I was quite involved with my company, and just to be able to come across to Cambodia in fear and trepidation. I didn't know what I was in for. And it was God's timing. It has been so easy. And of course, once you meet Soom, as you've seen this morning, it's not hard to serve and to minister and to bless. And I just see my role. We got into a little bit of pattern with Rob, where Rob and I, and sometimes Jenny would visit in about June and scope some of the projects. We might run some earth care classes, and I just want to honour Rob and Jenny. They're just toilers and faithful sowers. And you see all the good things up on the screen generally that happens. But trust me, as you all know, those who have been in the mission field, that behind those happy smiling faces and those successful things you see up there is some just hard work and some failures. We're only human. And I've even made mistakes on some of the projects where just a little bit of ignorance and, but God is so mighty, and he turns these mistakes into miracles and relationships. So So we would scope the work, and then in generally December and January, my brother David, who was here in the first service, he's an electrician, just a tower of strength to have in support. And I often say, by the time I've thought about it, designed it, planned it, David's actually done it. So he's just a great support to have there, and we've had some wonderful times. But I just see my role as part of God's incredible honouring of the faithfulness of this couple. And Chin sits there nice and quiet. She's picking up some of what we're saying, but I just want to honour Chin for being such a support. She's got they've got 4 children and 3 grandchildren, and often Chin is involved out in these rural churches. She unpacks these huge big bales of clothing that they buy from Phnom Penh. These bales weigh about 300 kilograms. She unpacks them and faithfully packages these little bags of clothing, jackets, t-shirts for the children, literally hundreds of plastic bags. And so we pile up the old Toyota with a few of my pumping parts and this mound of clothing for the children. And as you can appreciate, the joy, we went to a school class at Hillview the other day, and one of the girls asked, what is your favourite part? And my favourite part is seeing the joy on these children's faces, to see them being blessed, and to see Jesus with skin on, a practical, as Som said, with the road that we've helped construct, so that the children can actually get to school without having to ford a flooded river. To see the joy is just, I'd go tomorrow. So we're hoping for December anyway.
So you kind of touched on it. I think we've got some photos up here of you with some of your water projects that you've done. So you're very much side by side planning churches, schools together with fresh water being able to brought to children. So tell us a bit about that. There's one up here. Yeah. What's going on here?
That's the Barval mushroom. So Som is he's always got families, children on his heart. And if he can prevent, he did spend a lot of time in Battambang in a halfway house to rescue children from the street, prostitution and child trafficking. And he still realised he was still the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. And he felt one of the key things was to get out into the villages, to establish better education. And this church funds 3 teachers to help Som's ministry. And so that the children do get better educated so they can make better decisions going forward into their teenage lives. And so this is just one little example of where we've got a solar-powered pump pumping up to the tank, and we're able to give a misting system to grow the mushrooms. So, and again, a sort of macro enterprise to give employment for the children. And other times, our main focus is water, getting water into a village or a church or a school, and as we also addressed the school assembly at Hillview, and just think about it, children. There's so many schools in rural Cambodia, no power, no resources, no water, and so to be able to get them some water, which then means they can have a toilet, which we just, as Timmy said earlier, we just take so much for granted here in our affluent society. So the joy in being able to use some practical skills. I've often said I've pushed water around pipes for a long time. It's about the only thing I know, but God knows that, and just look at what. So I just want to encourage any one of you, and as I often say, all this good work here, it doesn't get you to heaven. Because all Jesus said, he asked us to, when you see someone without clothes, clothe them. When you see them hungry, feed them. They might be your next door neighbour who's just really at rock bottom, and you can walk across there with some hot scones and spend time with them. That's all God is calling us to. Not necessarily this sort of work, because we're all just part of that kingdom.
Yeah, so good, Paul. So just handing back to Dearsouem, just recently, as a church, we tithed some money off our legacy fund where we're raising money for a new building. And part of the vision here is, sure, we want to build a new city campus, but we also want to build buildings overseas. And so we've just got a picture up here where we gave $25,000 to give towards a building. Yeah, it's going to be clap. And so we opened this in March 2023, which is a few months ago, and I had the honour to go with the team from West just in the inauguration of the building. But this building really is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's where the least reached people are. It's 2.5 hours from Battambang, which is the main city, and it's all mud. A lot of it's mud roads just to get there. And so this is this kind of epitomizes Sum's work, really, that he wants to get where the least, the last, and the lost are, and to bless them. So you say this is your fancy church, don't you?
Yeah.
So tell us about this building and how it'll be a blessing to the community.
I thank to God for I am able to be a part of your, Grace Church, Wine Church here. That is a really great blessing for me that we have the vision. I think like we are together, planting church is planting church. That's I see like Grace Wine Church here, planting more church, right? I spend more and more. Yeah. That's what I'm doing since I returned from a refugee camp. First on my brother's village. After that, my brother village start 3 more church. And I'm going to start more also in the mountain area where we have the new fancy one that we just start on the top of the hill. That's what is God calling me to do, and what I say like after I return from Thai refugee camp, when I walk on the jungle where we are going through, we always see what I'm survive. Sometimes when I'm starvation, I can see that this bush that can be I can survive from digging the root for my living. Yeah, and I going to the mountain area. I see friends, those who are carrying gun and fighting together. That I see like God is calling us to do. Share the good news to them. Start the connection there, and make the church there. That's what happened. That God is working in my life, and I encourage you to be a part with me. In planting church. Sharing the good news, planting church, and next generation, we need to help them to grow in the Lord. That's my prayer. I know that I'm not strong, but I can get weaker and weaker in physical. But we would like to be strong in the Lord, that to raise for the next generation up. That is for the future for the for the church and the future for Cambodia. That's my prayer that we would like to see in the future. We would like to raise the next generation and to help with the church. And we thank God for this church, for the blessing that I never know or expecting that we have the fund for building this location. But I also thank to local authority. It's really hard in that area, but in the action we did, they see what we are doing for the Lord and community in those areas. They give a portion of land next to the school, free. So they make the paper, everything for the church. So this part that I feel like God is open door for us. To build the church there. That's really His purpose and plan, not me, but you, God.
Amazing.
So next step, join with me in prayer to build the people up there. Raise them up for the next generation. That's my prayer that we would like to continue. That's the way that I wish to. And on 2023, I know that we have a chance that take you and his friends, 3 of them, up in the mountain to another area. And we start a small church up there, we call a home church, up under the tree. So that's where rubber tree. So before we have some church also start, but just under the tree. But 2 years or maybe 3 years, we thank God that God blessing. We have a place where suitable for worship. That's we thank to God.
So good. And And I guess just another thing that really blew me away about this church area. I mean, you'd already gathered a group of people beforehand. The building didn't make the church, and you know, fitting into our theme of love builds, you've been building the people up through good works with open doors, but sharing the gospel. And some of these people that come to this church, you fought alongside very broken, traumatized soldiers, and now they're beginning to be redeemed under the presence of God. And I think what struck me is these are completely unchurched people. They don't know the running of a church service or anything. And I love that God's presence still meets them where they're at. We shared the story of the prodigal son, which the children absolutely loved. And so did the adults. You know, they responded to prayer and wanted healing. So isn't God amazing? Well, I think, I guess we're drawing to a close now. Is there anything you'd like to finish with, Paul, just before we pray?
To ask him what his people often call or refer to him as.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So what's your nickname in Cambodia?
Nickname. I know that in the village, they mostly do not know my full name because, a lot of interact going on, but mostly they see what we are doing at the church in the community. Building the road, crossing the river. We have started up drilling the well, put up the solar pump for one school, one church. That's my vision. Would like to see one village, one school, one church. That's going along together. So what we feel like we do for the church, we always have do the school, primary school in the rural area. Yeah. So the people, most of them, they do not know my name fully, actually, and then they call me Ta Yisu. Ta Yisu, that means the grandpa of Yisu, and they point to the church up there.
Jesus' grandpa.
Jesus' grandpa. So that's what they call me. So I always, oh God, I'm only your servant, but
I'll take it.
But they see, the action that we do, that's really telling a lot for their life. So we thank you.
Well, wonderful. Let's give them a clap, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.